The morning shift on transit station Kepler 442 started like any other. Corporal Han Minji walked through the gleaming corridors, her boots making soft sounds on the metal floor. She had been working security here for 8 months now, ever since humanity joined the galactic community. The station floated in space between human territory and the lands of the Vrin, a species that looked like tall, thin beings with silver skin and large black eyes. Minji checked her equipment as she walked. Energy pistol on her right hip, kinetic pistol on her left. Most security officers laughed at her for carrying the old-fashioned gun that shot bullets. They said energy weapons were better, safer, more modern. But Minji grew up in Seoul, trained with the police there. She trusted what she knew. The weight of the kinetic pistol felt like an old friend. Her partner Doyen spoke through her earpiece. "Hey Minji, seeing anything interesting out there?" "Just the usual crowd," she replied, watching aliens from a dozen different species walk past. Some had fur, some had scales, some looked almost human. After 3 years of contact with alien life, it still amazed her. "How are the monitors?" "Boring as ever." "Wait, hold on," Doyen's voice changed. "I'm seeing something weird in the security patterns." Section 7, near the diplomatic wing. "Cameras keep glitching." Minji changed direction, heading toward Section 7. Her instincts, honed from years on Earth streets, told her something felt wrong. The corridor seemed normal, but there were too few people. On a busy station like this, emptiness meant trouble. Today was important. Ambassador Kyle Thune from the Vrin was here for peace talks with another species called the Skrell. Years of war between them had finally ended, and this meeting would make the peace permanent. Kale had brought his daughter Io with him, a child who looked maybe 8 years old in human terms. Minji had seen them earlier, the tall silver father holding his daughter's small hand. She turned a corner and saw them. 3 figures in dark clothes, faces covered, moving fast toward the diplomatic reception area. One of them carried a weapon that looked homemade, dangerous. Minji's heart started racing. She reached for her communicator, but then she saw Ambassador Kale ahead, walking with 2 guards. And there, near a large window showing the stars outside, stood little Io. The child had wandered away from her father, watching ships pass by in the darkness of space. Everything happened fast after that. The 3 attackers raised their weapons. They shouted something about the Purity Dawn, about keeping species separate, about stopping the peace. Ambassador Kale's guards moved to protect him, but they didn't see Io. Nobody saw Io except Minji. The attackers fired, not at Kale, but at his daughter. They wanted to hurt him by taking away what he loved most. Minji saw the weapons point at the small child by the window. She saw Io turn, confused by the noise, not understanding the danger. Minji didn't think. Thinking took too long. She ran. Her legs carried her forward faster than she had ever moved. She didn't call for backup. She didn't draw her weapon. She didn't look for cover. She just ran toward Io, toward the child who stood frozen in fear. The first bullet hit her shoulder, old-fashioned kinetic rounds just like her pistol used. The attackers chose them because modern shields on the station were designed to stop energy weapons, not bullets. The pain felt like fire, but Minji kept running. The second bullet caught her side. The third hit her chest. She reached Io and wrapped her arms around the small alien child, turning her own body to face the attackers. She curled around Io like a shield, making herself as big as possible to cover the child completely. The 4th bullet hit her back. The 5th struck her leg. She felt herself falling but held onto Io tighter. They went down together, Minji taking the impact on her own body, keeping Io safe beneath her. The 6th bullet tore through her other shoulder. The 7th and final shot hit her lower back. Minji lay on the floor, still holding Io. She could hear alarms now, hear security teams running, hear weapons firing as station guards fought the attackers. But all of that seemed far away. What mattered was the small child in her arms, crying but unhurt. "Shh," Minji whispered. Her voice sounded wet, strange. Blood filled her mouth. "You're safe now. It's okay. You're going to be okay." Io looked up at her with those large black eyes, not understanding why this human she had never met was holding her, why there was so much blood. The child's silver skin was covered in Minji's red blood, but there wasn't a scratch on her. Ambassador Kale ran over, having fought off one attacker himself. He fell to his knees beside them. "My daughter, Io, are you hurt?" "She's fine," Minji said. Speaking hurt. "Everything hurt. I got her. She's fine." Medical teams arrived. They tried to move Minji, to get her to let go of Io so they could treat her wounds. But Minji held on for a few more seconds, making sure the child was really safe, making sure Kale had his daughter back. Only then did she release her grip. The doctors worked fast, but they all knew it was too late. 7 bullets through vital organs. Too much damage. Even with advanced alien medicine, some injuries were beyond help. Minji had known this from the moment she started running. You don't take 7 bullets and walk away. Doyen arrived, pushing through the crowd. He grabbed her hand. Minji, stay with me. The doctors are here. They'll fix this. She smiled at him, blood on her teeth. Doyena, take care of yourself, okay? Don't work too hard. Don't talk like that. You're going to be fine. But they both knew she wasn't. Minji looked past him at Ambassador Kale, who stood holding Io. The child was crying, calling out to her in the Vrin language. Words Minji didn't understand, but whose meaning was clear. The little one was asking why, asking the human to stay, asking her not to go. Tell her, Minji whispered to Kale, her voice getting quieter. Tell her it's okay. Tell her some things are worth it. Then Corporal Han Minji closed her eyes for the last time. She was 32 years old. She had been on the station for 8 months, in space for 2 years, and a security officer for 10 years before that. She died on the floor of Transit Station Kepler 442, holding a child she had never met, from a species she had only learned about 3 years ago. The station's security cameras had recorded everything from 17 different angles, every moment from when Minji started running to when she stopped breathing. The footage would spread across human space first, then to the Vrin, then to every species in the galactic community. They would all watch a human make a choice that changed everything. They would watch her run toward danger instead of away from it. They would watch her choose a stranger's life over her own. They would watch her die smiling, knowing she had saved someone and far away, in territories unknown to humans or Vrin or any of the younger species. An ancient civilization called the Apex Collective would watch too. They would watch and try to understand what they had just seen. For 47,000 years they had observed the galaxy, studying every species, recording every significant event. But they had never seen anything like this. 3 months after Minji died, Dr. Yoon Hana arrived on Vrin Prime. The planet was beautiful, with purple skies and silver cities that seemed to grow from the ground like crystals. But she wasn't here to see the sights. She was here because a child couldn't sleep at night. Io Thun sat in a chair too big for her small body, in a medical facility that looked nothing like Earth hospitals. Everything was smooth and curved, lit by soft blue light. The child stared at the floor, not speaking. She hadn't spoken much since the incident. Hello, Io, Hana said softly, sitting down across from her. My name is Hana. I'm from Earth, like the woman who saved you. Io's head came up. Those large black eyes focused on Hana with sudden intensity. Why did she do it? The child asked in careful, practiced human language. Why did the human female die for me? Hana had expected this question. She had spent the entire journey from Earth thinking about how to answer it. Because you needed help and she was there. That doesn't make sense. Io's voice cracked. My tutor showed me the calculations. She had a 97% chance of survival if she had taken cover and called for help. Her choice to run toward me reduced her survival chance to less than 3%. Why would she do that? This was the problem. The Vrin were logical beings. They understood mathematics and reason. Everything in their culture was built on making the best choice, the most efficient choice. Minji's action didn't fit into their understanding of the universe. Sometimes humans don't think about chances or math. Hana explained. We see someone who needs help, especially a child, and we just act. We don't calculate. We just do what feels right, right? Io repeated the word like it was foreign. What is right if it isn't logical? Before Hana could answer, Ambassador Kale entered the room. He moved differently now than in the videos before the attack. Slower, more careful, like he was carrying a heavy weight. Dr. Yoon, thank you for coming. My daughter has not been well. She's struggling to understand something that can't be understood through logic alone. Hana said, humans act on more than just reason. We have instinct, emotion, moral feelings. Your daughter is trying to process a human action through Vrin thinking, and it won't work. Kale sat down beside his daughter, putting a long silver hand on her shoulder. I have been studying human culture and philosophy since the incident. Your species has concepts we don't have words for: sacrifice without expectation of reward, love for strangers, Duty to protect the innocent even at cost to yourself. We have duties, Io said quietly. Duty to family, to our people, to the communion. But would you die for a stranger? Hana asked gently. For someone from another species you had never met? Io thought about this for a long time. Finally, she shook her head. I don't think so. It wouldn't be logical. My life has value. My future contributions to society have value. Trading that value for an unknown quantity doesn't make sense. That's the difference, Hana said. Humans don't see other lives as unknown quantities. We see them as equal to our own. Minji saw you a child in danger and her math was simple. Your life equals her life. She couldn't save you both, so she chose you. Why me? Io's voice broke. Why not her? Because you were young. Because you had your whole life ahead. Because in that moment you were the one who needed saving. Hana leaned forward. Io, humans have a rule, an instinct built into us over millions of years. We protect our children above all else. And in that moment, you became every human's child. Minji's child. She couldn't do anything else. Far from Vryn Prime, in a region of space no young species had ever visited, the Apex Collective gathered. They didn't have physical bodies anymore. Long ago, they had uploaded their consciousness into quantum computers, becoming beings of pure thought. They existed in a space between dimensions, watching the galaxy through sensors scattered across 1,000,000 worlds. First observer, Ven presented the footage to the Grand Convergence, a meeting of the collective's oldest minds. They watched Minji run, watched her fall, watched her die with a smile while holding an alien child. The convergence was silent for exactly 47 seconds. For beings who thought at the speed of light, this was an eternity of consideration. Analyze, commanded the primary consciousness, the oldest mind in the collective, nearly 10,000 years of continuous existence. Data flowed. The Apex ran simulations, creating virtual copies of the incident, changing variables. In 99.97% of scenarios, any rational being chose self-preservation. Call for help, take cover, assess the situation, return fire, protect oneself first. The human deviated from all optimal behavior patterns, Ven reported. Her action reduced her survival probability from high to near zero. She gained no advantage. She received no reward. The subject she saved was not kin, not even same species. There was no logical basis for her choice. Then it was madness? Suggested one of the newer consciousnesses. Humans are known to be emotional, irrational. No, Ven said firmly. I have studied this human extensively. Corporal Han Minji, 32 years, excellent service record, multiple commendations, no history of mental instability. She was not insane. This was a conscious choice. Then explain it, the primary consciousness demanded. We have observed 12,000 species over 47,000 years. We have never seen this behavior pattern. It should not exist. It violates the fundamental principle of survival. Ven paused. In the quantum realm where they existed, a pause meant deep processing, searching through databases of knowledge accumulated over millennia. I cannot explain it through our frameworks. We need to understand humans better. We need to understand what drove this action. Another consciousness, one that specialized in evolutionary biology, spoke up. Humans evolved in tribal groups. They have strong protective instincts toward their young. Perhaps this was a misfiring of that instinct. I considered that, Ven replied, but the subject was not human young, was not even humanoid in appearance. Vryn biology shares only 32% similarity with human biology. This wasn't simple maternal instinct. Then what was it? The primary consciousness asked. What variable are we missing? Ven displayed more data, not just the incident but Minji's whole life, her childhood and soul, her decision to become a police officer after seeing injustice, her record of helping others often at cost to herself, small choices repeated thousands of times, giving money to homeless people, working extra hours to help colleagues, taking difficult assignments others avoided. This wasn't a single aberrant moment, Ven explained. This was consistent with her entire behavioral pattern. Humans have a concept they call good. Not good as in efficient or optimal. Good as in morally correct. Corporal Han spent her life trying to be good. On that day, being good meant dying. The convergence processed this. It didn't fit. Their entire civilization was built on efficiency, on optimal choices, on logic. Goodness without practical benefit was nonsense. It was waste. It was contrary to the fundamental laws of survival. We have achieved immortality, the primary consciousness said slowly. We have mastered physics, conquered death, spread across the galaxy. We are the apex of evolution, the peak of what consciousness can become. Yes, Ven agreed. And in all our time, in all our perfection, has any apex ever made the choice this human made? Silence. Not 47 seconds this time, but longer. Much longer. No, Ven finally answered. We have not. We cannot. Our programming does not allow for self-termination without purpose. There would need to be a logical reason, a calculated benefit. We would never simply choose to end our existence for a stranger. Then perhaps, the primary consciousness said, we are not as advanced as we believed. Perhaps we have been observing incorrectly for 47,000 years. Perhaps optimization is not the highest form of intelligence. This statement shocked the Convergence. It went against everything they were, everything they had built. But none of them could argue with it. The footage played again. Minji running, falling, dying, smiling, doing something no apex would ever do. I propose, Ven said, that we make contact with humanity. For the first time in our existence, we should interact with a younger species. We need to understand the source code of Corporal Han's choice. We need to learn how a species can develop something we never did. The Convergence voted. It took 3.7 seconds. For the first time in recorded history, the Apex Collective voted unanimously. They would break their oldest law. They would make contact. They would ask humanity to teach them something the Apex had never learned. How to be good instead of just being right. Lee Seo-yun was teaching second grade when the government officials came to her school. She was in the middle of a math lesson, watching her students work on addition problems, when the principal knocked on her door with an apologetic look and two people in dark suits behind her. Miss Lee, these people need to speak with you. It's urgent, Seo-hyun's heart sank. She knew what this was about. It was always about her sister. 6 months since Minji died, and people still wanted to talk about it, write about it, make documentaries about it. She was tired of sharing her grief with the world, but these officials were different. They sat in the principal's office and told her something impossible. The Apex Collective wanted to meet her. The oldest, most advanced civilization in the known galaxy, beings who had never contacted anyone before, wanted to talk to Minji's sister. Why? Seo-hyun asked. What could they possibly want from me? They want to understand your sister, one official said. They want to know who she was before she became famous. They're coming to Earth and they asked specifically for you. Captain Choi Bora stood on the landing pad in Seoul watching the sky. Around her stood generals, scientists, diplomats, all of Earth's important people. They had prepared for weeks, creating presentations about human achievements, technology demonstrations, cultural exhibitions, military displays. Everything to impress the Apex to show that humanity was worth noticing. Then the Apex ship arrived, and everyone forgot their plans. It wasn't a ship as humans understood ships. It was a structure that hurt to look at, bending space in ways that made eyes water. It didn't land so much as simply exist in a place where it hadn't been a moment before. From it emerged a hologram, a form of light that shaped itself into something almost human, making communication easier. I am Prime Architect Synthesis, it said in perfect Korean. I speak for the Apex Collective. We thank you for receiving us. The Secretary General of Earth stepped forward, beginning his prepared speech about humanity's honor at this historic meeting. Synthesis listened politely but didn't seem interested. When the speech ended, the hologram spoke again. We wish to understand Corporal Han Minji. Take us to where she became who she was. Silence. Everyone looked confused. This wasn't how first contact was supposed to work. The Secretary General tried again. We have prepared presentations about human culture, our scientific achievements. We have observed your species for 3 years, Synthesis interrupted gently. We know your technology. We know your art. We know your wars and your peace. What we don't know is why Corporal Han made her choice. We need to understand this. Please take us to her life. That's how Seo-hyun ended up walking through Seoul with an ancient alien consciousness, showing it where her sister had lived. It felt surreal. Synthesis followed her in holographic form, watching everything with whatever senses it possessed. They went to the small apartment in Gangnam, where Seo-hyun and Minji had grown up. Their mother still lived there, and she bowed politely to the strange visitor, offering tea even though it had no mouth to drink. Minji slept in this room, Seo-hyun said, opening a door to a tiny space with a single bed and desk. We shared it until she moved out to join the police academy. She always gave me the better pillow. Said she could sleep on anything. Synthesis looked around the room at the old posters on the walls, the books on the shelf, the photos of two sisters smiling. This tells us she was generous with small things. Was this consistent? Always, their mother said, her voice thick with emotion. When we had food, Minji took the smallest portion. When we had money problems, she got a job instead of asking for allowance. She was like that since she was small. They walked to the park where Minji used to play. Seo-hyun pointed to a playground. When she was 16, she saw a man trying to steal a woman's purse here. Everyone just watched, but Minji ran after him. She caught him and held him until police came. That's when she decided to become a police officer. She was not large or strong, Synthesis observed. The probability of her successfully stopping an adult male thief was low. Why did she attempt it? Because no one else did, Seo-hyun said simply. She saw something wrong and tried to fix it. That was just who she was. They visited the police academy where Minji had trained. An old instructor remembered her.
Han Minji?
Good student. Not the strongest or fastest, but determined. She failed the physical exam twice before passing. Most people would have quit. She kept trying. They went to places Minji had worked. Colleagues told stories. How she volunteered for night shifts so others could be with their families. How she paid for a kid's school supplies when his parents couldn't afford them. How she spent her day off searching for a lost dog in the rain. She wasn't special, Seo-hyun said as they walked. She was crying now, unable to hold it back anymore. Everyone acts like she was some kind of saint, but she wasn't. She got angry. She made mistakes. She burnt dinner. She was bad at math. She snored. She was just a regular person who tried to be good. That's all. Good, Synthesis repeated. This word appears frequently in descriptions of your sister. Define it for me. Good means doing the right thing even when it's hard, Seo-hyun said. It means helping people even when you don't have to. It means being kind when the world is cruel. But what advantage does this provide? What evolutionary benefit? Seo-hyun stopped walking and looked at the hologram. That's not why we do it. We don't be good because it helps us. We're good because it's right. Right, Synthesis said. Another word requiring definition. Right as in correct? As in optimal? Captain Bora, who had been following them quietly, spoke up. You're asking the wrong question. Minji didn't calculate benefits. She didn't think about advantages. She saw a child in danger and acted. In Korean, we use the same word for correct and for moral. They're the same concept, Synthesis paused. The hologram flickered slightly, a sign of intense processing. You have a language where optimal behavior and moral behavior share the same word? This is significant. We have never encountered this. For the apex, these are completely separate concepts. Maybe that's your problem, Seo-hyun said quietly. You're trying to understand my sister through logic, but what she did wasn't logical. It was right, and those aren't the same thing. Explain the difference. Logic says save yourself first, Bora said. Logic says call for backup, take cover, assess the situation. Right says a child needs help now, and I'm the only one who can give it. Right doesn't wait for the logical choice. Right acts. Synthesis went silent for 4.7 minutes. Its hologram stood completely still. Everyone waited, not knowing what was happening. When it finally spoke again, its voice sounded different, almost uncertain. We are having difficulty processing this concept. For 47,000 years, the apex have believed that correct and good are the same, that optimal behavior is the highest form of behavior. You are suggesting they are different? That sometimes the right choice is not the logical choice? Yes, Seo-hyun said. Exactly that. Then how do you determine right from wrong? We feel it, Seo-hyun touched her chest. Here, humans have something we call conscience. It tells us what's right even when our brain says something else is smarter. A feeling? Synthesis sounded almost distressed. You make critical decisions based on feelings? Not calculations? The most important decisions, Bora confirmed. Love, sacrifice, courage. These aren't logical. They're felt. Synthesis's hologram flickered rapidly. This is troubling. We have observed your species for 3 years. We categorized you as emotional, inefficient, prone to suboptimal choices. We thought these were weaknesses, evolutionary flaws that you would eventually correct as you advanced. And now? Seo-hyun asked. Now we realize you don't consider them flaws. You consider them strengths. You have concepts we lack entirely. You can make choices we cannot. You can be good in ways we cannot. The hologram turned to face them fully. We must confess something. The Apex Collective has achieved immortality, unlimited knowledge, perfect efficiency. We have existed for 47,000 years. We are by all measures the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. But, Bora prompted, but in all that time, not one Apex has ever made the choice your Corporal Han made. Not one of us would have run toward danger to save a stranger. We would have calculated the probabilities, called for help, made the optimal choice. We would have let that child die. Seo-hyun stared at the hologram. You're saying your entire civilization with all your technology and knowledge doesn't know how to be good? That is exactly what I am saying, Synthesis admitted. We know how to be right in the sense of correct. We do not know how to be right in the sense of moral. We have spent 47,000 years optimizing, and we missed something fundamental. Something your sister understood at age 32. What are you going to do? Bora asked. We are going to learn, Synthesis said. We are going to restructure our entire civilization around Corporal Han's choice. We are going to teach billions of consciousnesses something they have never known, how to be human even though we are not. Seo-hyun wiped her tears. Minji would have found this funny. All she wanted was to open a little bookshop when she retired. Instead, she's teaching the galaxy's oldest civilization basic morality. Do you believe she would approve of what we are attempting? So 1 year after Minji's death, Dr. Kwon Ji-woo received the strangest invitation of her life. The Apex Collective wanted her to visit their territory. Not to tour, not to observe, to teach. She stood now in a space that shouldn't exist, a realm between dimensions where the Apex lived as beings of pure thought. They had created a physical room for her comfort with air and gravity and a chair, but beyond its walls existed only mathematics and light. You want me to teach you ethics? Ji-woo asked, looking at the gathered consciousnesses that manifested as glowing spheres around her. You've existed for 47,000 years. What could I possibly teach you? Prime Architect Synthesis spoke from all directions at once. Everything. We know physics and mathematics. We know how the universe works. We don't know why Corporal Han chose to die. We don't know how to make that choice ourselves. Teach us. Ji-woo opened her bag and pulled out items that seemed absurd in this advanced place. Children's books, philosophy texts, old movies on data chips. I brought things that teach human values. Stories about sacrifice and courage. Books about ethics and morality, she read to them. To beings who could process information at the speed of light, she read slowly in her human voice. Stories of firefighters running into burning buildings. Tales of strangers helping strangers. Fables about kindness and compassion. I don't understand, said a young consciousness named Whisper. In this story, the man gives his bread to a hungry child even though he is also hungry. Why not split it equally? Why not calculate the optimal distribution? Because the child needs it more, Ji-woo explained. The man is an adult. He can endure hunger better. He chooses to suffer so the child doesn't have to. But this reduces his survival probability. Yes. That is inefficient. Yes. Then why is it the right choice? Ji-woo smiled. That's the question, isn't it? You're trying to understand goodness through logic. But goodness isn't logical. It's a choice you make despite logic, not because of it. The consciousnesses fell silent. Ji-woo could feel them processing. Millions of calculations running, trying to find the formula for compassion. But there was no formula. That was what they couldn't accept. Back on Earth, something unexpected happened. A university student named Nam Hyun-woo started a movement. He called it the 7 Seconds Project, named for the seconds it took Minji to make her choice and the 7 bullets she took. 7 seconds every day, he said in his first video, which spread across Earth's networks like fire. That's all I'm asking. 7 seconds where you help someone. Hold a door. Give up your seat. Share your food. Be kind when it's easier to be selfish. If Corporal Han could give her life, we can give 7 seconds. Millions joined. People wore small bracelets with 7 dots, reminding them of their daily promise. The movement spread beyond Earth to human colonies, then to other species. The Vryn adapted it. The Skrell created their own version. Even species who had been enemies started finding ways to help each other. But not everyone in the Apex Collective agreed with the Reformation. Observer Cadre Nexus led the opposition. In the quantum realm where they debated, Nexus argued loudly against changing what they were. We achieved perfection through logic. We conquered death, mastered the universe. Now you want us to become emotional, inefficient human? We achieved perfection in survival, Synthesis countered. But we created nothing worth dying for. Humans have. That makes them richer than us in ways we never measured. They're primitive. They war with each other. They make mistakes. And they love each other. They sacrifice for strangers. They create meaning beyond mere existence. We exist, Nexus. They live. There's a difference. The debate raged for weeks. Finally, Synthesis proposed a test. They would create a simulation, identical to Minji's situation. An apex consciousness would be placed in it, given the same choice. Save a stranger at the cost of your existence or survive. 10,000 consciousnesses volunteered. 10,000 times the simulation ran. 10,000 times the apex chose survival. They called for help. They took cover. They made the logical choice. Every single time the simulated stranger died, except once. Whisper, the young consciousness who had questioned Dr. Kwan about the bread story, made a different choice. When the simulation started, when the danger appeared, Whisper didn't calculate, didn't assess probabilities, just acted. Whisper shielded the stranger, took the damage meant for them. In the simulation, Whisper ceased to exist. When Whisper's consciousness reformed outside the simulation, Synthesis asked the question everyone wanted answered. Why did you do it? Because, Whisper said slowly, if I hadn't, I would no longer want to exist. Corporal Han taught me that some things matter more than survival. The stranger in the simulation needed help. I was there, so I helped. It was that simple. But you knew you would terminate. Yes. You knew it was inefficient. Yes. Then why? Because it was right. Not right as in correct. Right as in good. I finally understand the difference. The Apex Collective went silent. For the first time in their history, one of them had made a choice that couldn't be explained by logic alone. One of them had learned to be good. The vote came after that. The Apex would reform completely. They would integrate Minji's choice into their core programming. Not as a rule or algorithm, but as a value. Something that couldn't be calculated, only felt, even by beings who didn't have traditional feelings. They called it the Han Protocol, named after Minji's family name. But it meant something more too. In Korean, Han was a concept of deep sorrow mixed with hope, of enduring hardship while believing in better days. It was perfect. The Han Protocol had 3 principles. First, to exist is not enough. To exist well, you must be willing to protect others. Second, efficiency is valuable, but goodness is essential. When they conflict, choose goodness. Third, the value of a life cannot be calculated. All lives matter equally. These principles were simple. A child could understand them. But for the Apex, they represented a revolution more profound than any technological advancement. Dr. Kwan watched as the Apex implemented the changes. She saw consciousnesses debate about morality in ways they never had before. She saw them struggle with concepts like sacrifice and compassion. It's hard for them, she told Synthesis one day. You can't force someone to be good through programming. Goodness is a choice you make freely. We know, Synthesis admitted. Many of us are struggling. We spent 47,000 years optimizing ourselves. Now we must learn to be suboptimal on purpose. It feels wrong. But we saw what your corporal achieved. We saw her smile as she died knowing she had saved someone. We have never known that feeling. We want to. Even if it means becoming less efficient, less perfect, we want to know what it means to do something good. On Earth, Seohyun received a message from the Apex. They wanted to create a memorial to Minji, not just on Earth but across the galaxy. Monuments on 1,000 worlds, each one recording her story, reminding everyone of what she did. What do you think Minji would want? The message asked. Seohyun thought about it for a long time. Then she replied, she wouldn't want monuments or statues. She'd want people to be kind to each other. She'd want you to help when you see someone who needs it. She'd want every species to protect each other's children like they were their own. That would be her monument. Actions, not stone. The Apex agreed. Instead of statues, they created a tradition. Once a year on the day Minji died, every species would participate in the Day of 7. 7 acts of kindness. 7 moments of helping someone. 7 chances to choose good over convenient. Ambassador Kale stood at the place on transit station Kepler 442, where Minji had fallen. It was marked now with a simple plaque. Next to him stood Io, grown taller but still young. Still alive because of a human she never got to know. "Do you understand now?" Kale asked his daughter. "Do you understand why she did it?" Io touched the plaque gently. "I understand that some questions don't have logical answers. I understand that she saw me a stranger, a different species, and decided I mattered more than her own life. I understand that was gift I can never repay. Then how will you honor it?"
By living in a way that makes her choice matter.
"By helping others the way she helped me. By teaching my children about the human who taught the galaxy what goodness means." Above them, visible through the station's windows, an apex vessel hung in space. It was the first time they had stationed themselves to protect a location. They were there to guard the station, to prevent another attack, to keep people safe. For 47,000 years, the apex had only observed. Now they protected. Now they served. Now they were willing to sacrifice, all because a human named Han Minji took 7 bullets and showed them there was more to existence than just existing. 5 years after Minji died, Io Thun graduated from the Vrin Diplomatic Academy. She finished at the top of her class, and her final paper was titled, "Why Illogical Altruism Creates Lasting Peace." The Academy's professors, who had spent centuries believing only logic mattered, gave her the highest honors. She stood before the assembly of graduates, tall and silver-skinned, no longer the frightened child who had hidden behind window glass. "I choose my first assignment," she announced. "I request to serve as Vrin ambassador to Earth." Everyone knew why. Everyone understood. She was going to the home of the woman who saved her life. The journey to Earth took 3 weeks. Hyo spent the time preparing, learning more about human culture, practicing their languages. When her ship entered Earth's orbit and she saw the blue planet below, she felt something her species rarely experienced. Not logic, not calculation. Emotion. In Seoul, Seo-hyun was 30 years old now. She still taught 2nd grade. She had refused every offer to speak publicly about Minji, turned down book deals and documentary requests. But when the Vrin ambassador requested a private meeting, she agreed. They met in the park where Minji used to play, the same place she had chased down that thief when she was 16. Io walked slowly, taking in everything, trying to see it through Minji's eyes. "Thank you for meeting me," Io said in careful Korean. "I know you guard your privacy." "You're different," Seo-hyun replied. "You were there. You knew her even if just for a moment." "I remember everything about that day," Io said. "The sound of weapons firing, the fear. Then suddenly someone was holding me, protecting me. I didn't understand what was happening. I looked up and saw her face. She was smiling even though she was hurt. She told me I was safe. That sounds like Minji. I've spent 5 years trying to understand why she did it. I've studied human philosophy, psychology, culture. I've read everything about sacrifice and heroism. And I finally realized something." "What?" She didn't think about it. There was no philosophy or calculation. She just saw a child who needed help and she helped. It was that simple for her. That's what makes it so profound. Seo-hyun looked at the young alien who owed her sister everything. "What will you do now?" "As ambassador? I will work to make sure no one forgets what your sister taught us. That kindness across species is possible. That we can protect each other even when it costs us everything." She would have liked that. Far from Earth, on a frontier world called Nova Roma, something happened that proved the galaxy had changed. A human mining colony shared the planet with a species called the Threll, insect-like beings with hard shells and multiple arms. The two groups had coexisted peacefully for 2 years, but they weren't close. Different biology, different culture, different everything. Then the earthquake hit. A human child named Yoonji, only 6 years old, was playing near a gorge when the ground started shaking. She fell, sliding toward the edge. Her father ran for her but couldn't reach her in time. She went over, catching a ledge 20 feet down, holding on with small hands. A Threll worker named Kirk saw it happen. Threll didn't have the same protective instincts toward young that humans did. Their children were independent from hatching. By pure biology, by pure logic, Kirk should have called for help and waited. But Kirk had heard the story of Corporal Han Minji. Every Threll had. It was taught in their schools now, shown to their young. The human who chose death to save an alien child, Kirk didn't calculate. Didn't assess probabilities, just acted. The Threll climbed down the unstable gorge wall, moving fast on multiple limbs, reached Yoonji just as her hands slipped. caught her with strong arms and held on as rocks fell around them. Climbed back up slowly, carefully with a human child clinging to chitinous armor. Both survived. When asked why, Kirk said simply, "I learned from the human Han. Some choices are not choices. They are definitions of who we want to be." The incident was recorded, shared, discussed. It wasn't as dramatic as Minji's sacrifice, but it was evidence. Evidence that her lesson was spreading, taking root across species and worlds. Grand Admiral Park Doyen, the man who had been Minji's partner, visited Transit Station Kepler 442 for the 5-year memorial. He was an important person now, leading Earth's space forces, but he still remembered the woman who burnt breakfast and laughed at his bad jokes. The station had built a monument where she fell. Not a statue as Seo-hyun had requested, but something simpler. A wall with 70 species words for protect carved into it. Each one contributed by a different civilization. Each one representing a species that had changed their ways because of what they learned from Minji. Do-yoon stood before it. In his admiral's uniform with medals and honors she would have teased him about. "You wanted to open a bookshop," he said quietly to the empty air. "You were going to sell old mysteries and serve tea. That was your dream." He touched the wall. "Instead, you became the most important human who ever lived. The Apex reformed their entire civilization because of you. A dozen species changed their laws. Children across the galaxy learn your name, all because you saw a kid who needed help and you helped her. Would you do it again?" he asked. "If you knew what would happen, would you still run?" He knew the answer. Of course she would. That was who Minji was. In the Apex territories, Prime Architect Synthesis gathered data from across the galaxy. 5 years of the Han Protocol. 5 years of trying to be good instead of just being right. The results were difficult to measure. Goodness didn't show up in efficiency reports. Compassion couldn't be graphed. But there were signs. Apex consciousnesses volunteered for dangerous missions now. They took risks to protect others. 3 had even chosen self-termination to save lives. Each time, Synthesis felt something that might be pride or might be sorrow. The Apex were becoming less perfect and more alive. First observer Ven, who had first brought Minji's footage to the Grand Convergence, made a report. "We have monitored galactic civilization for 47,000 years. We documented the rise and fall of species, the pattern of evolution and extinction. We believed we understood everything. And now?" Synthesis asked. "Now I believe we understood nothing important. We saw efficiency but missed meaning. We measured advancement but not goodness. Corporal Han has taught us that survival is not the goal. Living well is the goal, living in a way that you would choose to live even knowing you would die. That is very human of you. Perhaps, or perhaps it's very Apex. Perhaps we're finally becoming what we should have been all along." On Earth, Seo-hyun sat at her desk grading papers. Her students were learning about space, about aliens, about the big galaxy they were part of. One student had written an essay about Corporal Han Minji, not knowing the teacher was her sister. The essay was simple, written in a child's handwriting. Corporal Han was brave. She helped someone even though it was scary. "I want to be like her. I want to help people too." Soyun gave it the highest grade. That evening, she wrote her yearly letter to Minji. She burned it as she always did, letting the smoke carry words to wherever her sister might be. "Unni, 5 years today. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. Sometimes it feels like forever. The Apex came to visit me again. They wanted to know if you had any secret philosophy, any special training that made you who you were. I told them the truth. You were just trying to be good. Mom taught us that. Be kind. Help when you can. Protect the weak. Simple rules." They couldn't believe that was all there was to it. They spent 47,000 years looking for complicated answers, and you showed them the answer was simple all along. Yo is here now, the child you saved. She's the Vrin ambassador. She's beautiful, Unni, tall and graceful and smart. Everything you died for. She talks about you like you were a hero, but I remember you were scared of spiders and couldn't whistle. You were human, completely human, with all the fears and flaws that means. That's what makes it matter, I think. You weren't fearless. You were afraid and did it anyway. You weren't perfect. You were good, and you chose goodness even when it cost you everything. The galaxy has changed because of you. Species that hated each other work together now. The Apex, who thought they were perfect, learned they were incomplete. Children across 100 worlds learn about the human who took 7 bullets. But I don't care about any of that. I just miss my sister. I miss you teasing me about my cooking. I miss our late-night talks. I miss having someone who knew me before I was the sister of the hero. I miss Minji, not Corporal Han. Still, I'm proud. So proud it hurts. You saw someone who needed help and you helped. That's all. That's everything. Sleep well, Unni. The galaxy is better because you were in it. She burned the letter and watched the smoke rise. Across the galaxy, the Apex Collective made a final entry in their archives about Minji. It was short, simpler than their usual reports, written in language that would have been impossible for them of species human. Individual, Han Minji. Date, 5 years ago. She took 7 bullets to save 1 life. We calculated the inefficiency. We analyzed the irrationality. We tried to understand why any being would make such a choice. It took us 5 years to learn what she knew in 7 seconds. That's some reason. That a life given in love is not a life lost. We spent 47,000 years becoming perfect. She spent 32 years becoming good. She succeeded where we failed. The Apex Collective exists.